April 5th, 1923, 1:55 in the morning, Cairo, Egypt. Lord Carnarvon, one of the richest men in England, took his last breath in a hotel room. At that exact moment, every light in the city of Cairo went dark, the entire city. No explanation was given. Thousands of miles away in England, his dog began to howl. Then the dog dropped dead. 5 months earlier, Carnarvon had opened a 3,000-year-old tomb. On the outside of that tomb was a warning: "Death shall come on swift wings to whoever disturbs the peace of the pharaoh." In the 6 years that followed, 22 people connected to that tomb died. The world called it the curse of the pharaoh.
Howard Carter was not supposed to be there. His father was an animal painter, the kind of man who painted dogs and horses for wealthy English families. Howard was a sickly child, too weak for school, raised mostly by relatives in a small Norfolk town. He inherited exactly one thing from his father: a paintbrush. At 17, a lord noticed his watercolors and sent him to Egypt as a draftsman to sketch ancient artifacts. That was the job. Over the next 30 years, he became one of the most skilled excavators in Egypt, and he became obsessed with one thing: a pharaoh whose name had been deliberately erased from history. Tutankhamun. By 1922, Carter had been searching for 5 years. His sponsor, Lord Carnarvon, had spent £50,000 and found nothing. Carnarvon told Carter directly, "This is the last season. No discovery, no funding." November 4th, 1922. Carter returned to a section of the valley he had abandoned seasons earlier. A group of old worker huts, unremarkable. Everyone had walked past them for years. He ordered his team to remove the huts and dig beneath. A water boy tripped on something in the sand, a stone step. By the next afternoon, 16 steps had been cleared. At the bottom was a sealed door with a name carved into the plaster: Tutankhamun. Carter ordered everything reburied. He telegraphed Carnarvon in England. He waited. November 26th, 1922. With Carnarvon beside him, Carter made a small hole in the sealed door with a chisel, the same chisel his grandmother had given him on his 17th birthday. He held a candle to the hole. Warm air rushed out from 3,000 years of darkness. Carnarvon asked, "Can you see anything?" Carter stared. Gold. Everywhere. He said, "Yes, wonderful things." Inside were 5,398 objects: a solid gold coffin, a 10-kilogram gold death mask, a dagger made from meteorite iron that fell from space, 130 walking sticks, untouched for 3,000 years. It was the greatest archaeological discovery in human history. March 6th, 1923. 5 months after the discovery. A mosquito or small insect bit Lord Carnarvon on the left cheek. The next morning, while shaving, he nicked the bite with his razor. The wound became infected. An Egyptian fly landed on the open wound in the heat. The infection spread. Carnarvon developed a high fever. His condition deteriorated. His doctors ordered him to rest and stop drinking. He opened another bottle of wine. April 5th, 1:55 in the morning.
he was gone. 12 days before he died, a novelist named Marie Corelli had published a warning in the Daily Express. She claimed to have a rare book stating that anyone who entered a sealed pharaoh's tomb would face dire punishment. A novelist published a warning. 12 days later, the man died. The newspapers had everything they needed. The deaths came one after another, and every single one got a headline. American financier George J. Gould visited the tomb and died of fever the next day. Headline: Another victim of the pharaoh. British industrialist Joel Wool died of high fever after seeing the tomb. Headline: Tut's curse claims third life. Arthur Mace, Carter's key team member, died. Sir Archibald Douglas Reed, the radiologist who x-rayed the mummy, died suddenly. Carnarvon's half-brother died within 6 months. Daily Mail, Daily Express, Morning Post, every Egyptologist who died, every museum official, every person connected to the tomb, regardless of age, regardless of pre-existing illness, same headline: the curse claimed another victim. And then came the most disturbing detail of all. In 1925, when Tutankhamun's mummy was autopsied, the doctor found a small circular mark on the left cheek of the 3,000-year-old mummy. The exact same spot, the exact same cheek where the mosquito had bitten Lord Carnarvon. The newspapers went mad. By 1929, 22 people connected to the tomb were dead. The world was convinced. The curse of the pharaoh was real. Now let me tell you what actually happened. The inscription: "Death shall come on swift wings to whoever disturbs the peace of the pharaoh." It was never found in the tomb. Not on the walls, not on any tablet, not anywhere. Years later, the head of security for the excavation, Richard Adamson, confessed the truth. A journalist had asked him directly if there was any curse inscribed at the entrance. Adamson said he had found no such inscription, but he did not refuse the story either. He smiled. One smile, and let the journalist write whatever he wanted. The world's most famous curse was born from a reporter's imagination and a security guard's silence. The words that newspapers printed as an ancient Egyptian inscription were actually the words of Marie Corelli, the novelist, not an ancient pharaoh. In 1933, German Egyptologist Professor Steindorf investigated every single death on the list. He found no connection between any of them and the tomb, not one. In 2002, a study in the British Medical Journal tested the curse scientifically. They identified 44 Western people who were in Egypt during the discovery, 25 who physically entered the tomb, 19 who did not. The result? No significant difference in the average age of death between the two groups. Investigator James Randi calculated that the average age of the so-called cursed people was 73 years, slightly above the life expectancy of their social class. The pharaoh's curse was statistically increasing lifespans. Carnarvon had been seriously ill for years before the discovery. He came to Egypt every winter because he could not survive the cold of London. A mosquito bite in 1923 without penicillin in Egypt's summer heat was genuinely dangerous. That is not a curse. That is a pre-existing condition meeting bad luck and no antibiotics. The mark on the mummy's cheek matching Carnarvon's bite? That story came from the Morning Post, the same paper that was furious because the Times had an exclusive deal with the excavation team. Their reporting was not journalism, it was a competition. The Cairo power cut? Historian Dr. Joyce Tilsley confirmed that power cuts in 1920s Cairo were extremely common. It was a coincidence that one happened that night. Carnarvon's dog, Susie, she died at 4 in the afternoon in England. Carnarvon died at 1:55 in the morning Cairo time, which is around midnight in England. They did not die at the same moment. No one checked the time zones. The journalist who promoted this curse the most, Arthur Weigel of the Daily Mail, was eventually added to the victims list himself when he died of fever. The story consumed the man who created it.
If this curse was real, certain people should have died first. Lady Evelyn, Carnarvon's daughter, was one of the first 4 people to enter the tomb. She died in 1980 at 78 years old. Douglas Derry, the scientist who unwrapped the mummy and performed the autopsy directly on Tutankhamun's body, he died in 1961 at 87 years old. And then there is Howard Carter, the man who discovered the tomb, who physically broke it open, who removed the mummy, who spent a decade inside that tomb cataloging every single object. If any curse existed, Carter was target number 1. He lived until 1939, 16 years after the discovery. He died of cancer at 64. For the rest of his life, reporters asked him about the deaths. Every time, Carter gave the same answer: "I am still alive."
Tutankhamun's successors deliberately erased his name from every record in Egypt. For 3,000 years, the world forgot he ever existed. Ancient Egyptians believed a person truly dies only when people stop saying their name. Then a painter's son removed the sand from a forgotten staircase and gave an 18-year-old king a name that the entire world now knows. Today, Tutankhamun is the most famous pharaoh in history, not because of his power, not because of his reign, because of a curse that never existed, created by newspapers chasing readers and one security guard who smiled instead of saying no. Here is the question. In 2026, would a story like this spread even faster? Or would we be smarter than the newspapers of 1923? Drop your answer in the comments. That's Global Mysteries Untold. Every Thursday, a story the world buried. Subscribe, and I'll see you next week.